DreAllDay.com.
You are now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. This is the go-getter energy that moves you to make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Putting all this together, you get the mindset, the method, the podcast known as Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day. Welcome to the show. Today's topic is why wait? Why wait? That's what the question mark, if you couldn't hear it in my voice. Many people in life like to wait. We like to add time. We like to delay, to not do something now, because if we can do it now, we can always do it later. If it's available today, it'll be available tomorrow. If it's available this month, it'll be available next year and 10 years from now. Even though we know this is not necessarily true with a lot of things, and we know just on a basic level, relative level to all of our lives is absolutely not true, because sometimes we add time, actually not sometimes, but all the times, we add time to decisions, and we add time to when we're going to actually begin taking certain actions as if we're guaranteed to make it to that future date to when we can get around to things. And today, what we're going to do is explain this whole idea of, we're going to dig into this whole idea of waiting. And we're going to ask ourselves, does it really help? Does it really help to delay? When does it make sense to wait? When does it make sense to take our time? Why wait? Why pause? Why hesitate? Why delay? Why take our time? Why not just move with urgency? Why not just take action right now? We know there are reasons why we don't take action in a moment. We know there are reasons why we delay. We know there are reasons why we hesitate. We're going to get into that all today and figure out, when does it make sense to wait, and when does it make sense to jump into action? And hopefully, by the end of today's episode, those of you who have struggled with this challenge of indecision, which is one of the 31 major causes of failure that Napoleon Hill pointed out in his seminal book, Think and Grow Rich. Indecision is one of the major causes of failure. People's inability to make decisions and their inability to just go in, because if you don't make a decision, you're not going to do anything. So it goes hand in hand with inaction. When does it make sense to not make a decision, not to be indecisive, but to hold off on even considering a decision? And when does it make sense to just go right into action? Let's get into that today. Again, today's topic is why wait. Point number one, name a decision of yours. So we're going to start off, we're going to use the Socratic method here today, at least in this first point. Name a decision of yours that was made better because you delayed deciding. We're going to start with that one right there. I want you to think about that. When was the time where you took your time in deciding what to do, and because you took your time in deciding what to do, it ended up being a better decision than what you would have done had you just done whatever the first thought was, the first idea, the impulsive decision, I guess we can say, or the impulsive decision that you had in your mind, but you didn't act on it. You decided to delay, you decided to wait, you decided to take your time, you decided to be a little bit more deliberate about it. And that decision, the decision you made later, was actually better than the decision you would have made initially. I want you to tell me, you can't tell me through the headphones, but I want you to think of, when was the time that happened? When was the time it got better because you waited to make a decision? I'll wait. Now, am I right or wrong to assume that you can't even think of a time in which you delayed making a decision and the decision actually got better? Most of the time when we delay making a decision and that later decision ends up a good one, is the exact same decision that we would have made initially. Now, when we delay a decision and the decision ends up being a bad one, is because we thought about it a little too much. We thought ourselves out of the right thing and thought ourselves into the wrong thing, or talked ourselves into it, or allowed ourselves to be talked into it by somebody else. Most often, we can't even think of a time when delaying a decision actually made a decision better. We can think of a time when delaying a decision just made the same decision happen later than it should have. So we just had to invest our time, the most valuable thing we have in life, into making the exact same decision we would have made initially. That's not a good thing. There's nothing to brag about. We delay because it makes us feel safe. We delay most of the time out of fear. Now, we may not label it as fear. We may label it as, I want to do the right thing. I don't make decisions quickly. Or some other things people say. I need to go to church and pray on it. These are things that people say when they want to delay making a decision, not because they actually need to do those things. And no disrespect to anybody's decision-making process, whatever you want to call it. Most of the time, it's out of fear that we don't want to do the wrong thing. We don't want to commit to something, and that thing we committed to end up being the wrong thing. So we come up with all these logical, reasonable excuses for delay. Or reasons, if you want to call them that. You can call it whatever the hell you want to. Reasons to delay, excuses to delay. The bottom line is we end up delaying and it costs us time. So you can call it whatever you want to. Time is the most valuable thing we have in life for your 5 forms of investment. You're investing some of your time into delaying a decision, then that time's gone. I don't care why you did it, it's gone. We delay because it makes us feel safe, because it allows us, when we delay the decision, it allows us to look around the corners, so to speak, for all the possible dangers, all the possible pitfalls, all the reasons why this might be the wrong decision, all the reasons why we might fail. Basically, this equates to talking ourselves out of action. Whenever we delay making a decision, we end up talking ourselves out of action, or we talk ourselves into the wrong action, or we talk ourselves into the exact thing that our instinct told us from the beginning. Those are only 3 things that happen when we delay. Is there anything else that happens? I'm gonna say those 3 things again. If I miss one, let me know. We talk ourselves out of doing anything, so we end up doing nothing because we delayed to think about it and then did nothing. So all that time got wasted because we spent all that time thinking to do nothing. We might as well have done nothing from the beginning. Or, that's option A. Option B is we talk ourselves into the wrong action because we didn't listen to our instincts and we allowed our conscious minds, which are much less accurate than our instincts, we allowed them to talk us into doing something that we shouldn't do. Many of us have done that before. Everybody here knows about that. Or that's option B. And option C is we talk ourselves consciously into the exact same thing that our instinct told us from the beginning. What all that means is that we cost ourselves a whole bunch of time in order to make the exact same decision that we should have made from the beginning because we didn't trust ourselves. We didn't trust our gut. We didn't trust our instinct. We didn't trust the message that was delivered to us by our subconscious mind. And if I'm wrong about that, again, you let me know. My email is dre@dreallday.com. My Instagram is @Dre Baldwin. My Twitter is dreallday. You let me know if I miss one. Is there anything else that happens when we delay making a decision besides those 3 things? Point number 2. Today's topic is why wait? Why do we delay making decisions? Why do we delay taking actions? Why do we delay moving on a decision that we've already made in our gut, but we, for whatever reason, consciously, we haven't really brought it to fruition. We haven't brought it to our conscious reality. Why do we delay? Point number 2. I want you to understand that I'm not here to tell you that all of life you should just be impulsive and as soon as you think of something, just do it. As soon as you get a gut instinct or a hunch or your subconscious tells you something, that means you should just run and go do it right there in a moment. That can get you in a lot of trouble. It might cost you your life. You might not want to do that. All right, so I'm not here to tell you that you should just go run and follow your instinct all the time and do everything that you think of just because. All right, there is a time in life to think about what you're doing. There are times when you should deliberate. There are times when you should take your time. Okay? There are times when you should plan and strategize and consider the ramifications of your actions. That makes sense. Listen, before I record an episode of this podcast, I plan, I strategize, I think of what am I going to talk about. I take notes on the points that I'm going to make, any anecdotes that I'm going to come up with. Some of them I come up with top of my head. Some of them I note them to myself, so when I see it, I say, oh, let me tell that story right there. Sometimes I'll omit what I've written down, but I plan, I strategize, okay? I don't come up with 1,000+ episodes of this podcast by going off the top of my head. I wish I was that much of a genius. I'm not quite there yet. All right, so there is a time to plan. There is a time to think. There is a time to strategize. There is a time to consider, if I do this, what else will happen here? Any of you ever played the game of chess? I did a whole episode on chess. Any of you ever played chess, you know. You don't want to just move. You don't want to just take the first move you see. You don't want to make the impulsive move. If your opponent takes one of your pieces, you don't have to react by taking one of their pieces. All right, this is not checkers. When people say they're playing chess, not checkers, what they're trying to say is that they're being more strategic and considering the ramifications of their movements rather than just acting impulsively. Most of the time, people say that they don't even know how to play chess. But anyway, that's a different subject. But what I am saying here, even though there is a time to plan and think, once the plan is in place, here's the thing. Once you have a plan, once you have a strategy, once you have a roadmap, And your plan may not even be a good one because look, you don't know if a plan is good until you execute it. Okay, a written down plan isn't good or bad. It's neutral. It's just a written down plan. It's just words on paper. All right, it has no value whatsoever until it's executed on. Once you have a plan in place, good, bad, neutral, or however you feel about it, and your possible contingencies are considered, just in case that plan doesn't work, you consider what are you going to do if and when it doesn't work, and it probably won't work. Then it's time to move. Then it's time to take action. As soon as you have a plan in place, as soon as you have a strategy, as soon as you have considered everything that you need to consider, or at least everything that you think you need to consider, and I guarantee you as a side note, there will be some things that you didn't consider considering that you should have considered that you will only find out about once you take action. All right, there's no such thing as a perfect plan that hasn't been executed on. It doesn't exist. It's a misnomer. So once you have the plan in place, and I guarantee you'll have to change it once you get into action because that's the way life is, because no human being is perfect, and you consider your possible contingencies for if and when this plan doesn't work, we can just say when the plan doesn't work, then it's time to take action. Then it's time to move. Then it's time to do something. All right, deliberation time is over. All right, now as you start moving, as you go along the way and start following your plan, you'll make new decisions, you'll make new adjustments, and you'll alter your plan as necessary. You'll alter your actions as necessary. You'll alter your responses as necessary. And again, I'll tell you for the fourth time, you will need to alter your plan. You will need to alter your actions. You will need to respond and react in different ways. I keep saying that to let you know that there is no amount of planning that is going to make that plan perfect if you have not yet executed the plan. It is impossible to have a perfect plan that works out exactly as you planned if you have never executed on that plan before. Now, if you've done it before and you have some experience and you have some reasons to believe why the plan will work, then that may be different. Maybe it's possible to come up with something that's like perfect. You know exactly how it's going to go and it goes exactly that way. But even then, I think it's still a very, very rare thing. No human being is that smart. You can predict the future exactly. You can maybe predict the outcome, but how you're going to get to the outcome may be completely different from how you expected you would get there. When I was 16 years old, I decided I was going to play professional basketball. I didn't know how, I didn't know when, I didn't know where. Now, I ended up playing pro basketball, but I had no idea that the plan was going to be what it ended up being. You understand what I'm saying? You can have the goal and still get to the goal, but the way that you thought you were going to get there may not be the way you end up getting there. So what you need to be married to, as they say, be married to the outcome. Don't be married to the process. Or whatever way, there's a different way we can put that too. Don't be married to the plan, be married to the outcome. You can kind of get married to the process too, if you know the right process. Now, if you got somebody who knows what they're talking about giving you a process, you can be married to that process, right? If someone tells you, all right, if you take my 30 days of discipline course, you can be married to that process because I know what I'm talking about. Now, if you have a process that you just came up with on paper that has never been executed on, don't marry yourself to that process. I guarantee you that process ain't gonna work. Not the way you thought it would. You have to make some adjustments, but the goal doesn't have to change. You don't have to change your mind, you just change your grind. That's a good one there too. I'm gonna say I made that one up. Point number 3. Today's topic is why wait with a question mark. Why do we delay? Why do we hesitate? Why do we not take action in a moment? Here's the truth. I told you a lot of truths here today, but here's another truth. There is too much randomness, too much uncertainty, and too much luck, both good and bad, in the world today for us to think that we can predict it all before we take action. All right, anyone here who thinks you can predict everything that's going to happen before you do something, you are gravely mistaken. And if you've ever thought it before, you've already proven yourself to be wrong. Have you not? All right, so how many times you need to fool yourself before you let this get through your head? There's randomness in the world. There's uncertainty in the world. There's uncertainty in your plan. Look at your plan. Those plans ain't certain. You may think they're certain, but nobody else in the world is conspiring to go along with your plan the way that you want to go along with it, right? When I wanted to play ball, 16 years old, I said, all right, first step, make the high school basketball team as a junior. Fail. All right, the rest of the world wasn't going along with my plan. Next step. Now, this is according to my perfect plan. Let me tell you every step in the perfect plan that I had when I was 16 years old to play pro basketball. First step was to go make the high school basketball team. The next step was to be like an all city or all district player in the city while on the basketball team. I figured my junior year would be like a grooming year. I'll get used to being on a team. Maybe I'll average maybe 14, 15 points a game my junior year. Then my senior year, I'll go average 25, 30. And then I'll get and then the next step, After I made those all city teams and all that, I give me a scholarship to go play college basketball somewhere. Division I, anywhere Division I would be fine. Give me a college basketball scholarship. Go to college, play 4 years if I needed to. I mean, if I wasn't good enough to go straight to the draft, I'll play 4 years. It's okay. I'll make that sacrifice. That time sacrifice, play 4 years of D1 basketball, get myself drafted to the NBA. If it's not the NBA, then maybe I can go play overseas. I knew there was basketball happening overseas. I didn't know much about it, but I knew it existed. Then I go play overseas and boom, my plan is done. I'm overseas, I'm in the NBA, I'm playing basketball, I'm making money for it. It's excellent. Everything would have worked. None of those steps happened the way that I thought they would. The only step that worked was I ended up playing professional basketball, and I wasn't drafted. And I had to hustle harder to get in than I thought I would. I had to hustle harder to get in than I had to even, develop the skills in the first place, honestly. So no steps of my plan worked, but the goal did happen. And I'm telling you that to tell you this, there's randomness in the world. There's uncertainty. Everything that I thought was going to happen exactly as I planned it, none of it did, because nobody else in the world, no other entity, nothing else that was involved in the years that it took me from age 16 to age 23 when I signed my first pro contract, nobody else was going along with this plan. Nobody else even knew about the plan. Okay? Nobody else signed off and said, you know what, I'm gonna do everything I can, Dre, to help you reach this outcome. My high school coach didn't say that. The players I played with and against in high school didn't say it. The college coaches who never recruited me, they didn't agree to the plan. All right, the NBA scouts and overseas scouts who never paid any attention to me, they didn't agree with the plan. So I didn't have anybody else going along with my plan besides me. And that's why the plan didn't work, even though I got to the outcome. Understand that there's uncertainty, there's randomness, there's good and bad luck that happens in the world, and you're gonna have to deal with that when you get out there. All right, the plan that you have today may need to change tomorrow. The plan that will work perfectly today may not work perfectly next year. The plan that worked perfectly for me 2 years ago may not work perfectly for you 2 years from now. And referring back to point number one, how many times has delay helped you versus how many times it either hurt you or did nothing? So delaying taking action on your plan just because of what I just said. See, when I say something like what I just said, this is what happens with a lot of people. Because a lot of people are controlled by fear and doubt and indecision, anxiety, stress, and worry. They look for reasons to feel those energies just so they can delay action, hesitate, not do anything, because they get to stay in their comfort zone of where they already are and not go into the unknown of taking an action that they're not 100% sure of the outcome. Here's the problem that those people have is that there is no action that you can be 100% sure of the outcome. That's the problem. Which means if you will only take action for which you're 100% sure of the outcome, you'll never take any actions. Therefore, you'll always stay where you are. Therefore, you can't get any better. Therefore, the world is going to pass you by because the world is always moving. Literally, it's moving. If you are fighting as hard as you can to stay in one spot because you don't want to deal with the unknown of movement, the unknown of change, the unknown of taking action before you know exactly what's going to happen, then the world's going to pass you by and you're going to become an old person. You can be 22 and old because you're still the exact same person you were a year ago, a week ago, an hour ago, because you're not moving, you're not growing, you're not willing to step into the unknown. All of life is unknown, people. The things you think you know, you won't know them anymore 2 years from now. Things you think will never change won't even exist 5 years from now. So if you're not willing to step into the unknown, listen, why you listen to a podcast called Work on Your Game? That don't make any sense. I don't have anything for you. I don't have anything to share with you. I can't tell you anything that's going to help you if you're not willing to step into the unknown. If you're not willing to deal with the randomness, the uncertainty, and the good and bad luck that comes with being alive. It comes with being human. It comes with plans that I guarantee are going to be imperfect. How many times has delay helped you versus how many times it either hurt you or did absolutely nothing? As we recap today's episode, why wait? Many of us like to wait, to delay, to hesitate, to defer decisions. Why? And today we're diving into it. Point number one, as I just said, name a decision of yours that was made better because you delayed decision. Name one. You probably can't even name one. We delay things because it makes us feel safe. It allows us to remain in our comfort zone. It allows us to look around the corners, quote unquote, for all possible dangers. The problem is we can't predict those things. No matter how much time we spend looking for every possible ramification, everything that could possibly go wrong, everything that we need to know, gathering more information There's a bunch of you I'm talking to right now who like to use that phrase, I just need to get more information. I want to know if you can tell me anything else. Yeah, I read all your articles and I listened to all your podcasts, but I want to know if you can tell me anything else that you didn't already share, Dre, that I need to know before I start taking action. You ain't never going to do shit. If that's the way you're thinking. Point number 2. There is a time to think about what you're doing. Now, I'm not telling you to just be impulsive and do everything that you think of. There is a time to plan, strategize, consider ramifications of your actions. There's a time for all that. But once you have a plan, once you have a strategy, and it's probably not going to be a good plan or strategy if you haven't executed on it already, I guarantee it ain't going to work, and you've considered all the possible contingencies, now it's time to take action. As you take action, you will see what's happening, you'll see the flaws in your plan, you'll make adjustments to your plan, and you'll keep moving. All right, every time you stop and do nothing and stagnate, the world is moving without you. And if it moves without you for long enough, you get left so far in the past that people forget you. Point number 3, here's the truth. Here's another truth, right? I give you truth all day. There is too much randomness, too much uncertainty, and too much luck, good and bad luck in the world for us to think we can predict it all before we take action. And referring back to point number 1, how many times has delay helped you versus how many times it either hurt you or did absolutely nothing for you? You ended up making the exact same decision you should have made 3 hours ago, 3 days ago, or 3 years ago. Now let's talk about what's going on in the game group. In the personal development section, we talk about this, moving yourself into a habit of action, being an action-oriented individual. Again, which does not mean being an impulsive person. It doesn't mean just doing stuff just to be doing it. It doesn't mean that you don't plan. It doesn't mean that you don't think. It doesn't mean that you don't strategize. It means you are oriented in action. You are focused on getting things done. You are focused on taking actions and finding out, does this work? Does this not work? Where are the holes in my plan? How can I make this better? What's out there for me? What's available to me? You don't know what somebody's going to say. You don't know how people are going to respond. You don't know how your audience is going to take this new product that you're putting out. You don't know how the world is going to respond to this content that you just created. You'll never know if you don't put it out there. You'll never know if you never make the offer. You'll never know what somebody's going to say if you don't call the phone. You'll never know until you take action. So being an action-oriented individual is a masterclass in the game group where we talk about this. If you have had the challenge of being an action-oriented person in the game group, which is about a lot more than that, it's really about discipline. The main focus of the game group are the discipline of applying strategies that produce results. Discipline, strategies, results. If any of those have been a challenge for you, then the game group is the place that you need to be. If you listen to what you hear on this podcast and you like it and it sounds good and it's helping you get better and you're looking for the strategies, the roadmaps to actually help you apply these things and make them real and make them part of who you are and what you do on a consistent basis when it comes to your business, to your life, to your sport, to your relationships, to anything, the game group is where we dive deep. And it's really, I'm stressing this word, discipline. So if you're a person who's afraid of discipline, you're a person who doesn't want any part of discipline, you're a person who rather hear the hype and the bells and whistles message, listen, the game group is for you too, because the hype and the bells and whistles is not going to get you the results you want, but it's really about the discipline. So you need to know when you step into the game group, you're stepping into learning the strategies that produce those disciplines that do produce the results. And that's at dreallday.com/game group. Work on your game. dreallday.com.